Hummingbirds are fascinating creatures that are tons of fun to observe. This video will introduce these little birds and explain how to attract them to your yard. There are approximately 340 species of hummingbirds, and they're all found in the Americas. About half live within 10 degrees of the equator. Less than 24 species venture into the United States and Canada, with very few of them staying year-round. The only species consistently found across the United States is the ruby-throated hummingbird. If you see a hummingbird in Ohio, it will be a ruby-throated one. When migrating northward, the males usually arrive first. Both males and females have emerald green backs, but the males will have a bright red throat and dusky chest, while females will have a white throat and chest. These little birds weigh just 3 grams. Ruby-throated hummingbirds fly straight and fast at about 78 wing beats per second. They can stop instantly in mid-flight, hover, and easily adjust their position in any direction. They have extremely short legs that prevent them from walking, though you will see them shuffle on a perch or bend a leg up over a wing to scratch their head. With super long tongues, these hummers feed on the nectar of flowers and occasionally tree sap. They will catch insects in mid-air or pluck them from spider webs. And of course, they will frequent hummingbird feeders. In order to get here, migrating ruby-throats will fly 500 miles non-stop across the Gulf of Mexico. They manage this by increasing their body weight by 50% in advance of starting the trip. The first ruby-throated hummingbirds of the spring typically start appearing in the southernmost states in late February or early March. The arrival time of hummingbirds depends upon the weather and other environmental factors, such as food availability and the amount of daylight. Though it varies from year to year, generally speaking, ruby-throated hummingbirds will start making their appearance in southern Ohio in late April. Hummingbirds have an extremely high metabolism and need a lot of energy to fuel them in their annual migrations. It's typical for a ruby-throated hummingbird to daily consume up to half its body weight in nectar, which it does by feeding 5 to 8 times per hour. We can help them out by creating hummingbird-friendly habitats and putting up feeders. Like all wildlife, hummers need food, water, and shelter. Having trees and shrubs in your yard will provide resting places for hummingbirds, branches from which they can survey their environment, and good places to find insects. Ruby-throated hummingbirds will search the landscape for lichen and spider webs to build their tiny nests. Because hummingbirds get most of their water intake through nectar, they use other water sources more for bathing than drinking. The typical bird bath is too deep for hummers to use, but fountains, sprinklers, misters, and drip attachments will appeal to them. Planting the right flowers will make your yard very attractive to hummingbirds. Plants with tubular flowers, particularly ones that are red in color, are favorites, but ruby-throats are known to drink from a wide variety of flower shapes and colors. There are many different hummingbird-friendly plants suitable for local gardens. Try to plant a selection that will assure there are blooms in your yard for the entire hummingbird season. Here are some familiar examples. Some familiar local annuals include begonias, geraniums, impatiens, petunias, snapdragons, and spiderflower. For perennials, consider columbine, phlox, delphiniums, coral bells, bee balm, daylily, and bleeding heart. Canna and gladiolus are 2 summer bulbs that hummingbirds will visit. If you want to have a vine in your garden, trumpet vine and morning glory are options. Shrubs can provide hummers with both places to perch and places to feed. Options include butterfly bush, hibiscus, flowering quince, and azalea. Your ruby-throats will love the flowers you plant, but they'll also be thrilled with your bird feeders. The feeders benefit us as humans as well, since they bring hummingbirds to a spot where we can easily observe them. Any store that sells birdseed is likely to also sell hummingbird feeders. You will find they come in 2 main styles, either an inverted container emptying into a lower reservoir with feeding ports, or a container with feeding ports in its cover. When picking a feeder, examine it to determine how easy it will be to disassemble and clean, and prioritize those features in making your selection. Since ants will overrun a hummingbird feeder if they discover it, you may want to look for a feeder with an ant moat. Also, consider how you will hang your feeder. Some come with hooks, others come with suction cups for mounting on a window. Making sugar water for your feeders is easy and inexpensive. The mixture requires 1 part white sugar and 4 parts water. Combine the two and boil for 2 minutes. After filling your feeders, any remaining sugar water can be stored in your refrigerator. You may have heard suggestions to dye sugar water red, but this is unnecessary. If you're going to put out feeders, it's very important to make the commitment to keeping them clean. Sugar water is susceptible to mold, bacteria, and fermentation, all of which can be harmful to hummingbirds. In hot weather, clean your feeders every 3 days. When temperatures are cool, clean every 6 to 7 days. Regardless of how much time has passed, if the sugar water turns cloudy or mold is observed, it's time to clean the feeder. To clean, empty the feeder, wash it in hot water, and make sure there is no visible dirt or mold. Bottle brushes and pipe cleaners can help with the process, especially when it comes to cleaning the feeding ports. Hummingbirds are very territorial. When food sources are abundant, you may only see one ruby throat at your feeder at a time, and you will likely spot one bird defending the feeder from another. As the breeding season progresses, keep an eye out for young birds visiting your feeders. Their tails will be shorter and their coloring will look like an adult female, though you may observe a few red feathers beginning to appear on the throats of young males. Don't be surprised if you see other creatures visiting your hummingbird feeders. Orioles are particularly common in areas that have them. Locally, keep an eye out for familiar birds like chickadees and downy woodpeckers. The southward migration season for ruby-throated hummingbirds lasts from late July to late October, though you may not see them that long locally. As the season progresses, the hummers at your feeders will likely be those migrating from regions further north. Feeders are an important source of food for ruby throats as they make their long trek. Keep your feeders up until 2 weeks have passed without seeing any hummingbirds. Attracting hummingbirds to your yard not only helps these remarkable creatures, but can provide you with hours of entertainment. To get a sense of when hummingbirds are arriving in your area, check out the migration maps generated from local sighting reports at hummingbirdcentral.com. To dive deeper into the topics we discussed, check out these 2 books available from Clermont County Public Library: Ortho's All About Attracting Hummingbirds and Butterflies, and The Hummingbird Book. I also recommend The Fastest Things on Wings by Teresa Mazier, a leading hummingbird rehabilitation specialist in Los Angeles. Her engaging book is an easy read that shares the stories of the many hummingbirds she's helped over the years. These 2 DVDs, available for checkout, may also be of interest: Hummingbirds and Super Hummingbirds. If you need help obtaining any of these resources, call or visit your local branch of the Clermont County Public Library.